everybody, welcome back to the Blu-ray Hunter. I'm the Blu-ray Hunter, Jonathan Moody, and I've got a special guest. He hasn't been on the show and, doing anything for the Blu-ray Hunter in a little while, except for the Blu-ray hunting videos that we do where we talk about our haul videos and stuff that we've been doing. But please welcome Paul A. Presenza. How you doing, Paul?
Yay, it's your old pal the Moo Cow, and I'm doing Moveless. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. Fantastic, a cow stick. I don't know, whatever. However you want to say it your way.
Ah,
I don't think you can make a pun out of that. But yeah, I hear the funny thing is, this is probably going to be released around Criterion sale time.
hey,
And I want this because it's July. Well, right now it's June, but it's going to be July, and when this is released, and this is our time to talk about the Criterion films that we love, and stuff, and that we own and that we love. And so these are our top 10 Criterion films that we own. And I figured who better to do it than my Criterion buying buddy of mine. We sometimes go to Barnes and Nobles and buy the movies, and so together. And so why not share what and we have a show. We have a little show called Criterion Watch, which I was almost thinking of bringing to Blu-ray Hunter, too. So we have, even though we've got it on the Criterion Watch and we've got it on IFC, why not an extra so that whoever is watching the Blu-ray Hunter that hasn't seen the other ones might, might
although not all of my Criterions are Blu-rays.
oh well, it doesn't matter. It's basically some of them aren't available on Blu-ray yet,
I know.
and that's kind of a bummer. But I think they're slowly sort of getting there, and a lot of them are putting them on 4K, so they'll have 4K Blu-ray. And if you already have the DVD, there you go. So, but without further ado, we'll get into this, because that's why everybody's apparently going to be watching this, right? You'll see the title and you're like, oh, I want to know what these guys top 10, uh, and some of them, a couple of them are 4Ks for me. So, but I chose Blu-rays and 4Ks. I don't think I have a few DVDs, but they're probably at the studio, and I don't, care. But we're doing it a little bit different because I'm going to be showing off what I get, and Paul's got a list of ones he has because he couldn't. It'll take him a while to find everything that he has. They're
I mean,
all
I got one or two I could hold up, but if you don't
hmm,
have them all, there's kind of no point.
right. So we're gonna start off with my number 10 and then your number 10 since you're the guest, and we'll keep going back and forth. So my number 10 is a little movie that I didn't know about until I discovered Kevin Smith and everything, and then that kind of got me into this filmmaker and this movie especially. It's a little movie called Slacker. Um, I love this movie. Not it's one of my favorite movies to own, not just because it's a class, it's a really good, interesting independent film, but because it has another independent feature film on it. It's got a movie called It's Impossible to Learn How to Plow by Reading Books. And it's Richard Linklater's first movie, and it's before he did this, so everybody thinks this is his first. And it was his first movie that he did, feature length film, and he did it like by just having a camera out and just shooting stuff. I mean, it really didn't have much of a story, but the commentary on it, where Richard Linklater is just, talking about how he went out and he just made something, and he just didn't care if it was any good. He just went out and he just shot something and, just and edited it together and made a
It's
feature
interesting.
film,
I'd like to see it. I had heard of it. I just had never seen it because I don't think it was available previous to that.
It was on DVD when the
Oh, really?
Criterion put the Slacker DVD together. It was on that.
Okay.
So I'd seen it on that, but now I have it. I don't know if it's been also like blown up to, HD quality or anything like that, or if they just left that alone on, standard definition. But it's a wonderful. I'm pretty
Great movie.
sure. Yeah,
Great movie. I have it on DVD, just by itself, but yeah, I'd love to get the Criterion version.
yeah. It's definitely really good. So Slacker is a fantastic movie, and anybody who ever, and then of course, I could have chose his his other one, his high school one that he did, or I could choose. There's a bunch of them that Richard Linklater has out on Criterion, but I chose to do this one because A, it means a lot to me. It was the movie that sort of inspired Clerks, which inspired Kevin Smith to go out and make a movie, and to me, he inspired me. So by association, he's I guess I'm gonna call him my grand inspirer, you know, because the father of inspiration for me was Kevin Smith, but his father of inspiration was Richard Linklater. So I'd love to meet Richard Linklater one day, and I know he just
Ah,
put
me
out
too.
a new movie on Netflix called The Hitman that's out and available, and it looks kind of cute and fun, and I want to check that out too. So, without further ado, you're number 10.
Okay, so consulting my list, number 10 for me is the movie M from
Mhm.
1932. It is the Fritz Lang classic film with Peter Lorre. In fact, I believe that's the film that sort of made Peter Lorre an international star. And it is an amazing film noir. In fact, it's one of the movies that sort of kicks off the film noir um, genre. It's a German film, and it's about a sort of a police hunt who going after this guy who is a child murderer, basically, and it kind of paints him in a sympathetic light, which is extremely difficult to do. And Peter Lorre just puts on an amazing performance. There's some magnificent photography and cinematography that's involved with this film, and just the tension. Some of the scenes with all the people in there, and some of the fog shrouded scenes are just there's just some amazing stuff going in there. If you don't know a whole lot about film noir, and you're interested in that genre, I suggest watching M first before you go off into some of the other stuff, because it really kind of gets into it in the 40s, but the 30s is kind of where it starts, in my opinion.
Mm.
And great film.
It's the movie that you're right. It's the movie that introduced the world to like Peter Lorre, but it's also the one that got him the job for being in the Man Who Knew Too Much. The
Mhm.
Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock had seen him and thought, who is this guy? I want to put him. I want to cast him. And Peter Lorre did not know much English. He was not a very well spoken English person, or whatever, because he's not. He's German, or whatever. So it was a hard time, but we had to do that at Hooked on Hitchcock, the Man Who Knew Too Much, and man, I just love seeing Peter Lorre and everything. So
Oh yeah, he's a great actor. It's a shame because people kind of see him in sort of a comic light, where he's like later on in life when he's just doing those silly roles and he's just being kind of like stereotypical creeper guy. But he was a lot more than that. As a matter of fact, he had a very similar career to Bela Lugosi in that he was a fantastic theater actor who became a big star, and then his star waned over the years, and he just kind of lost a lot of respect and a lot of fans, unfortunately. But
yeah,
would have been interesting if Hitchcock had seen Dracula and decided to hire Bela Lugosi for that instead. That would have been a
I'm
very interesting.
I'm sure he had seen Bela Lugosi, and
Sure.
I'm sure there probably been talks, but I think Bela Lugosi, even though he was in one of the most biggest name movies of of that time period, Dracula was a huge movie. He never kind of rose up beyond Dracula, I mean, and that kind of sucked. He did a lot more B
Well,
movies and stuff
he,
because of it.
unlike Peter Lorre was able to break away from, I think, a lot of those roles later on. He even got in some comic stuff. Bela Lugosi never really kind of
Mm,
recovered from Dracula. He was kind of put in that position for most of the rest of his career, other than when he was playing henchman,
yeah,
unfortunately. And then he got into a lot of the cheap serials, Republic serials, and stuff like that.
yeah.
So
Well, there you go. All right. So my number nine, up to nine now, is a movie that I'm sure if you don't have it, it would be on your list or close to it if you did have it. So I'm not sure if this is on your list because I don't know if you have it. Is Badlands, Terrence Malick's Badlands.
Great movie.
So yeah, so one of my friends who worked with Kevin Smith, Vincent Pereira, he loves this movie, he loves Terrence Malick, he loves the way he shoots outdoors and all that stuff. And this movie was a big, I think, inspiration to him. And I never knew of this movie until, he had talked about it, and I think the Better Place commentary talked about it a little bit, and made me go, okay, I need to look that up sometime. And I bought it, having never seen it before, and thought it looked incredible. And Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek are just fantastic, and it's just a wonderful movie. So if you have never seen Badlands, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I have it on DVD. I do not have the Blu-ray or the Criterion version, but I'll tell you what, man. I saw that movie when I was 15 years old in high school at the State Theater in Newark. It was a repertory theater, so they played older movies from time to time. And I was freaking gobsmacked by Sissy Spacek. It was the movie that made me absolutely fall in love with Sissy Spacek. I had never seen anyone so glorious in my life. All the red hair and freckles, and she played such a fantastic, sympathetic character. She was just amazing, and at the same time,
Uh-oh.
just smoldering and just evil, and just, my goodness, the two of them together were just a fantastic couple. And it was a great film. It was just amazing.
It's
So,
funny that you had a crush on Sissy Spacek, and our age difference, shows that I had a crush on her daughter, Skylar Fisk, who was in like Orange County and Snow Day and all these things. And she's a singer, and I had her on my radio show. I was lucky enough to have her on my radio show, and I have a feeling back then she was living with her mom. So me and my friend think that we heard her mom downstairs saying something
hmm,
during the thing. And we're just like, we might have got Sissy Spacek on our show in a way, like
that's funny.
without actually doing it.
Well,
It's kind of
I
cool.
think she was young. She must have been like 19 or 20 when she did that role. And I
Hmm.
was like I said, 15. So I was just like, "Ooh,"
Yeah,
blown away. Yeah. So
that's
great film
great.
though.
Yeah. So what's your number nine?
Number nine for me, that's going to be Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood. One of my favorite movies, mainly because it's two of my favorite things put together: Kurosawa and Shakespeare. And of course, it is the Japanese or Kurosawa version of Macbeth, which is my favorite Shakespeare play. And again, it's fantastically acted. It's got all the great actors, Toshio Mifune and everybody else, and it's got magnificent visuals, and it's a great costume drama. But it's also got some really good fight scenes, and it's got a little bit of everything with a Japanese twist in there too. There he ends up putting a number of really cool and interesting bits and pieces from Japanese folklore that he adds into the film that, of course, is not in Shakespeare. And it's just a really, really excellent film. So it's one of my absolute favorites from Kurosawa. And yeah, it is out. I don't know if it's in 4K yet, but I would love to get my hooves on it if it does. I definitely have the Blu-ray, and I highly, highly recommend it.
Okay, so big question then. Which one's your favorite? Throne of Blood or Roman Polanski's Macbeth?
Roman Polanski's Macbeth is in my top 20 of Criterion. I did move it out to 20 places just in case. It is also a great film in its own right. It's not quite the level of Kurosawa, and it kind of suffers just because the financing at the time, because he couldn't really get it any other way. Some of it came through Playboy magazine, and I think a lot of people sort of poo-pooed him because of that, unfairly, because it had nothing, it wasn't like a nudie kind of a movie. It's just that's where he got funding from. And that's unfortunate. I remember reading at the time that there were people who just held that against him, which is ridiculous. But it is an equally dark film, and it's done in the revisionary style of the time that I like, which is, previous to that, revisionary style, everything was like Camelot, where, Middle Ages were presented as everybody was gorgeous and everybody was clean and everybody's uniform is perfect. And no, that's not how it was in the Middle Ages. And so after that period in the 60s and 70s, they were showing it more like everybody's covered in shit and mud and filth and crap, and everybody's stuff is used and worn, and because that's really the reality. Even kings, had that. So yeah, and I like that, and it's a much darker take because I also happen to love Orson Welles' Macbeth, for very different
Every
reasons.
all of them did it,
Oh, I love them all; they're amazing. Um, but I really have a sore spot, a soft spot for the Polanski Macbeth, and I don't remember if I've shown that to you or not. We're going to do it at some point,
Yeah.
but it's
You
amazing.
haven't shown me. We haven't done Throne of Blood yet either, have we?
Oh, well, we got to do it.
Have we? I know.
No,
No, we
no,
did
we
high.
haven't.
We did high and low. And we've done,
High and low,
yeah,
Seven Samurai,
yeah, Seven Samurai. So we have not done
not yet.
with Throne of Blood yet. Yes,
We
that
did Lady Snowblood, but that was with
but that
that's
was
not
you
Kurosawa.
and that
And
was
that's
you and
me and
Joe.
Joe.
Yeah. We are planning to do the Lady Snowblood 2 or whatever,
And
which I
I
still haven't
have
seen, but
a number of other samurai movies too that are not Kira Kurosawa, but yeah, Throne of Blood is definitely up there. We're going to do it at some point.
definitely. All right. So my number 8 film is a director that we just watched one of his for Criterion Watch. And that should be already out by the time this comes out, but it is Scanners, which I fucking love. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I loved watching Videodrome, don't get me wrong, but Scanners, there's just something about that movie that just feels like sort of like the Blade Runner world, or like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like sort of like the future, but it's not the future, kind of thing. And I don't know. I really loved it. David Cronenberg is a genius filmmaker, and I think that's a movie I'm going to be watching more and more because it was my first time watching it and I fell absolutely in love. Like I moved it up to my, into my top 10, after watching it, because I was just like, this movie just blew me away. And so there you go. My number was it my number 8 is Scanners.
Yeah, that is a great film. I do not actually, I had it on DVD. I don't have it on Blu-ray or Criterion yet, so I would like to get it. Cronenberg is an amazing director. He's also one of my favorites. And it is an excellent film. I do have a couple of things and a couple of nits to pick with it, though. As much as I liked Jennifer O'Neill and Patrick McGowan, and I loved Michael Ironside, this was like his best role, in my opinion. The lead, Stephen Lack, I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. He just kind of comes off as kind of meh, you
I don't
know?
know. He didn't bother me, but we both have different tastes on that stuff. So I
Yeah.
mean, he didn't bother me. I didn't think he was the best actor in the world. I wasn't like searching his IMDb trying to find out, what else I can watch of his. But then again, I was like, well, he did his job and he did what it came across, and he didn't seem like a terrible actor, at all. So I mean,
Yeah, he wasn't
all in
bad.
all,
He just I don't know. I think he could have done better, or somebody could have
right.
been better cast, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, I liked it. I enjoyed it. And so yeah, that's my number 8. What's your number
And
8? What?
didn't they do a series?
Yeah, they did like Scanners 2, Scanner 3, and then Scanner Cop or something,
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so they did a few Scanner stuff, but
But I thought there was either a TV series or there was
I,
going to be a TV series.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was one or had been one, and why not, or one in the works. I don't know. I just know the first one was amazing. I haven't seen any of and I've heard the other ones are pretty good too. So, I mean,
Well, it's one of those films that if it was not a series, I think there's enough richness in the story that it could be.
right.
You know what I mean? I think it would be. I would watch it. I don't know about you, but I would watch
I'll definitely watch it. I would definitely watch anything. I haven't watched any of the sequels or anything yet. It just hasn't happened. And I'd probably watch a series, as well. If somebody made one. So Hollywood, go make one. I mean, the thing
it.
is, like, I don't see why they don't make stuff like that because it's an IP. You know, it has a franchise, it has a following, and whatever company owns the property should just go, hey, we own Scanners, let's make a Scanners TV show.
It's just about that time too. I mean, they're starting to bring 80s, excuse me, 80s stuff back. So why
They're bringing
not?
80s and they're bringing 90s stuff back. Like I
Yeah, I
just
know.
saw Practical Magic 2. So
Oh
like
God,
I don't see why they wouldn't make another Scanners movie or TV show or something, you know.
would make a great TV series, in my opinion.
You know, it's so funny because I started realizing how much movies could be turned into TV, you know, and how easy that can be or whatever. Just because like they're just longer versions of TV or of
Well,
linear
the
TV.
ones that do that best are movies or intellectual properties that build worlds, or in this case, build underworlds. Stuff
Underworld, yeah,
that expands, and you can add more characters and different characters and have different things. Those make the best TV shows, in my opinion.
definitely. All right. So what's your number 8?
So number 8 for me is the film Koyaanisqatsi, which is the Godfrey Reggio film. It's part of a three-pack because he did Koyaanisqatsi, Panisqatsi, and I forget the third one, but they're basically, Koyaanisqatsi is a sort of visual poem set to music, and it's a so it's not really a documentary. It's more like an art piece,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also a documentary as well, and it means life out of balance from the Hopi Indian world, and that's the basic theme of the film. So all the music and all the visuals reflect that. That's the one. I don't know if you remember, but I had Lenore sit through, and she
Yep.
was she was blown away by it. She was like, "Oh my god!" And people who have not seen it are just, and I've shown it to, have just come out the same way. They're like, "My God, where did this come from?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this. I remember seeing this when it came out in the theaters, and there was like one of 10 people in the damn audience, and I'm like, how could you people not love this movie? It's amazeballs. The visuals just alone are incredible, but then you've also got this incredible soundtrack by Philip Glass that is unbelievable. It's one of the greatest I've ever heard in my life. And I'll never forget, I actually, when I was in grad school the first time back in 1990, I actually got to see Philip Glass and the Trans Siberia Orchestra perform the entire movie live in concert while the movie was playing on a screen in the background in Philadelphia. Oh, it was one of the highlights of my life, man.
That sounds
Um,
amazing, especially if you're like so in love with the movie and the music
oh,
that
it's
it just
amazing.
it would
Yeah.
be like watching a Carpenter film and him just doing the whole score while watching the movie in the back. You know, like that would be a
Have you
dream.
seen it?
No, I've been trying to buy it, but like it's really expensive because like
Because it's three films.
you know,
Yeah.
it's 3 films, so like even it would normally be like what, like $90 or something like regularly, and then I guess half off is like 45. So that's like the most that they ever get to on eBay and everything. I'm like, I was hoping that you know, if I could get it for like 30 maybe or something or 25 or whatever, I'd definitely
Well, I'll
hit it
have to
up.
show it to you someday because this is a perfect example of a film that really, really goes to the next level when you go from DVD to Blu-ray. And I
Right.
can't imagine what that would be on 8K. I mean, I guess, or 4K. I guess I'm close enough because of the TV I've got, but it's great and glorious and amazing in DVD, and it's 10 times better on Blu-ray. So, yeah, considering that it's, if you like a
Oh,
movie that's primarily visual and for sound, even though it doesn't have any characters whatsoever, trust me, you're gonna love it. You're gonna be amazed by it. You know.
definitely.
So,
I definitely want to check it out at some point.
and the other films he did are almost not quite to the same level, but that one was a hard act to follow. So yeah,
Was that the first?
that was the first one.
Okay, so after that it was downhill. You know, it was all
Slightly,
downhill from here.
slightly.
All right, so my number 7 movie. All right, so I wanted to have, you know, I have David Cronenberg. I have what is it, Terrence Malick and was it and Richard Linklater. So it seems like I have like a lot of directors who I adore and I love, and I want to make sure I had a Terry Gilliam movie in there, of course. You know, gotta. Yeah, he's a really big person in the film in the Criterion collection, and he is also one of my favorite. And this is one of my favorite, movies from the collection, and that is Fisher King. Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges and um, God, Terry Gilliam, Deborah Hill produced it. Speaking of Carpenter, Deborah Hill, who worked with Carpenter, she produced this. It was just a wonderful movie. It's got an audio commentary by Terry Gilliam. Who I need to listen to that. Um, and I think it's available on 4K. I haven't bought the 4K yet. I only have the Blu-ray because I was an idiot and didn't think that they would come out with the 4K for it like anytime soon. So I bought the Blu-ray because I wanted to see it and own it and everything. When I watched it, I was like, uh, you know, um, Jackie loves freaking Robin Williams, and I've always wanted to show her this movie. So when we do Criterion Watch, with her, this is one of the movies I wanted to do because this movie is just make it's kind of like how Good Will Hunting put Robin Williams back on the map. This puts him, this did that in the like 80s.
Yeah,
So
it's
wonderful
interesting because the one
90s.
I want to show Jackie from Terry Gilliam is going to be Time Bandits. I think she would love Time Bandits.
Yeah, they're a bit different of taste. At least don't show her Brazil. I don't. It was
See, I knew you were going to bring up Brazil. That's my favorite from her. I think it's wonderful.
it was so funny because I did and I think it's on the Blu-ray Hunter channel, so you can watch it. But I was going over my Criterion collection and stuff, and when I was back at the apartment in California, and Jackie's dogs were around, and Zeke was just watching me talk to the camera about these things, and so I said, "I'm not a really big fan of Brazil," and he goes. And I was like, oh, it's the best. I put it as a clip at one point because it's one of the best clips ever. Like he's just like, yeah, I was like, wait, do you like Brazil?
Well,
Like
yeah.
he was mad at me for liking Brazil. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of it, or whatever. Just give me this look like it was wonderful. But no, I'm not really. I mean, I maybe need to watch it again. Maybe I wasn't in the right mood. Wasn't they're just maybe I need to watch it with other people. If you end up doing it for Criterion Watch, I'm down to watch it again. Like I'm not a person who's gonna be like, oh man, you're
it's
picking Brazil. I'm gonna have to walk out.
it's another one that I have on DVD, but I don't have the Criterion and I don't have the Blu-ray, so I'm gonna have
But
to
you're
get.
gonna have to tell either you're gonna have to buy it in the July sale, or you're gonna need to tell me at some point that you're doing it so I can bring up
Mm,
the
yeah,
Blu-ray of it or whatever. But either way, I know you like to keep it as a surprise, and that is the more fun part. I'm not
it
gonna
is.
lie, because when you brought up Videodrome, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't wait to watch it, or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think there's been anything on Criterion Watch or Film Freaks that we both have picked that I didn't like, you know? Like I don't think I've watched something and I go, "Oh, this is what the fuck Friday." There's been a couple, but that's because your pick for what the fuck Fridays are just way too out there that I sometimes I can't. I'm not there, you know.
Happiness.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more of that really dumb cosplay one or whatever.
Oh,
That I was just
cosplay
like,
fetish drones.
yeah, I was just like that is just it
It
was
was what the fuck, wasn't it?
it was, but it was too
Weird.
boring too. Like I was like, come on, get to something interesting, and you find out the whole time the guy's just trolling people. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you like the movie or not.
Yep, yep, yep,
All right.
yep.
Anyway, your next one. What are we on, number 7?
Number seven. Number seven is one we actually have done for the show, and it is Doctor Strangelove. And of course, I gotta have Stanley Kubrick, my favorite director of all
Oh, I
time,
haven't put
represented.
Stanley. Did I put Stanley Kubrick? I don't think I did put a Stanley
Um,
Kubrick movie in here, but I knew you would.
oh
So I was
yeah.
afraid. Like I didn't. I was trying not to pick something you'd pick. So I'm glad I didn't pick Doctor Strange because I have Doctor Strange left, but I don't have it on Criterion. I have it on 4K
Oh, okay.
on like Warner Brothers or whatever
Gotcha.
company. Yeah.
Well,
But
yeah, it's one of my favorite black comedies of all time. Peter Sellers is just amazing in
he
this
is,
film in multiple roles. Um, George C. Scott was great, and everybody in it was fantastic,
yeah.
and just well directed, just well shot, and yeah, it pops out on the Blu-ray. And it's got all kinds of great extras on there. It's one of my absolute favorite films of all time.
Well, if anybody wants to know, like, we also did for Criterion Watch, we did Failsafe, which is like
Did
a similar, it's like the exact same story, except like tone is completely different,
yeah,
and
very
stuff.
good.
Yeah, both are very good movies, but both show like how one way and Kubrick wanted to be first because he did not want to follow like a darker version of his thing, like where it's more tragic, more not silly and goofy like his. I mean, the greatest scene in the whole movie that everybody always remembers is what's his name, the goofy comedian on the bomb going "Rah!"
Oh,
Woo!"
Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens, like, and dropping down on the bomb, and I mean,
Well, and then remember too, there are a number of tropes that that film invented. Things like the big board, that was not a thing
and that became a
until
real thing.
it
Yeah.
became a real thing. The interior of bombers at that time was freaking classified. So he had to kind of, he had a guy that flew planes in the military, and he kind of described it for him, but he pretty much made all that up, and that was a lot of detail in that, and it was really well done. And after that, people
Hmm.
were like, "Oh shit!" Same thing with, as it turns out, with 2001. The whole spacewalk thing. Before that, everybody would just walk around like space was normal. It wasn't like, "Oh yeah, there's no gravity." He was the guy who did that. So yeah, Kubrick is that kind of director where he sets trends that everybody else follows, and he
That's
does that in Strangelove. It's a lot of fun.
Now I'm wondering what he would think of the acolyte having fire in space and then putting out the fire in space where there's no
Ridiculous,
oxygen. And then
ridiculous.
they go, "Well, this is just fantasy." I'm like, there's got to be some kind of logic to it. Like, there's got to be something.
Your
I don't
best fantasy is grounded in some level of reality, or otherwise it's a cartoon.
Exactly. And people I'm getting really upset because you can't say anything about the Acolyte because it's Star Wars and it's the way that they're going now, and I'm like,
I've been slamming Star Wars since Return of the Jedi. So
yeah, that's true. You haven't been a fan of the Star Wars saga since probably, I mean, Empire Strikes Back. I'm surprised I mean, I guess
that's an
that.
excellent film.
Yeah, I had some good moments. I had some great moments. I love it. But I also like Return of the Jedi because I was young when the Jedi came out, right?
Because
So
you were the
I
target
I
audience.
was the target audience.
Let's
I lived
sell toys to these kids.
to these poor little idiots who want Ewoks because they look cute like teddy bears,
Hmm.
right? And we can have little teddy bear Ewoks and so I was the perfect, person at that time. Was I a fan of Jar Jar? No. But do I get that what they were doing for the kids that were, Jar Jar was a character that they could have, they could market. So whatever. I mean, I think the Ewoks were a hell of a lot better than Jar Jar, but that's my opinion. Anyway,
They were
uh,
both equally horrible, in my opinion.
all right. So next is number six, right? We're on
Hmm.
number six, and I had to have an Alfred Hitchcock movie in there, because I have a whole show dedicated to him, and G. Larry Butler and I do the show mainly because you made him do really bad stuff, kid stuff. And he was like, I don't like, he was like, I don't like talking bad about, these movies or whatever, and I'm like, well,
You can't help it because they're terrible.
I know. But then I showed him, I was like, well, let's do a Hitchcock thing. So he hasn't watched all the Hitchcock. He hadn't even watched that many, or whatever. So we decided we're gonna watch all of them. And so we've got a whole show where we're doing that. And this was one of them, Rebecca.
Yay, that's
They've
my
done this
favorite film.
also for Criterion now. Yes, it's my favorite too. Originally, I thought Notorious, which I also love, but I thought, you know what? I fucking love this movie better. Like I do. Like this is a movie that I will watch over and over and over again, and it's really uh entertaining. It's really kind of spooky at times, and the more I watch it, the more I see things in it that I didn't notice before, and everything. It's just a wonderful movie. If nobody's seen Rebecca, and you don't have any Hitchcock movies in your Criterion collection, this would be my number one pick for it. I think if you watch it, I mean, freaking what's her name? Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier.
Joan Fontaine is amazing. She's one of
Uh,
my favorite actresses of that period.
and she's so beautiful. It's
Mhm.
so funny to know like her and her sister used to fight all the time. She had
Yep.
a sister had Da Harveveld.
Vivian Lee.
No, I think it was Da Harv something. I don't know. So a really big name actress that they would fight and they did not like each other and everything. I was like, that would be a great idea for a TV like biopic, like
Well, I got a confession for you. You'll like this. I should have seen this way back again at the State Theater in high school and college. But all I knew that it was a Hitchcock movie, which would have been enough to bring me in, except I thought Rebecca in question was Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farms, which is not, yeah, that is not the plot. But I
no.
didn't know that. That's what I assumed it was. So I was like, that's like a little kid's show. I don't want to watch that. So that's what I assumed Rebecca was the whole time.
Oops.
It wasn't until later on in life that I finally watched it. And I was like, oh shit, I was wrong about that.
And you should have watched it. Yeah, it's definitely something that I always tell people like watch Hitchcock because Hitchcock's one of those directors who I just think the world of. His stuff's not all great. And that was the fun thing about watching all those movies is some of the movies, especially the earlier ones, are not that great, like they're not that fantastic. And so but they're good, you know.
Well, that one in particular is one of the more beautifully shot films that he's ever done, in my opinion,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yep. So it's definitely good to have. I hope they release it on 4K at some point because I'll definitely buy that upgraded to 4K. I'll probably
I'd do
upgrade
that.
all the Hitchcock movies to 4K that are on Criterion because all of them are fantastic, but that one is my favorite. So there you
Mhm.
go. I guess you're next. What's your six?
Okay, number six for me is a movie we did do, and that is Matewan.
It's a
John
great.
Sayles, one of my absolute favorite writer directors of all time. This is my favorite film from him, and it's just an absolutely fantastic film. Another one of those movies where everybody involved puts on an absolutely fantastic performance, and it's another one that I got to see in the cinema at the time in the theaters. Absolutely loved it. Chris Cooper is my, I think it was like the first time I saw Chris Cooper, and I just thought he was fantastic. Mary McDonnell was great. David Strayhorn was great. Just everybody in there. Even what's his name? Oh God, I don't know why my uh, guy who did the voice of Darth Vader.
Oh, James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. Yes, James Earl Jones has a small but memorable role in that. It's just so amazing. And again, has great visuals. He actually wrote the music that I think her name is Hattie something or other. She actually sings through the thing. It's just a fantastic American film. It's the kind of movie that couldn't be made anywhere else. It's a very American movie. Got an interesting part of American history.
Yeah, that was the first John Sayles movie, but you also had us watch the
Lone
other one, Lone
Star.
Star, and that just came out on Criterion. And so
Oh,
I'm gonna be buying that in July on
nice.
4K because, like why not,
That was
right?
really good, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah, no. And it was something I think I could watch with my dad because I explained it to him and he was just like, it's actually a really good idea for, like that was a really good story idea. So I think he would get into it. The I don't know. I like John Sayles. I like Mate One. I think we used to have it. My dad told me he does not remember ever having it, but I always remember the name. And I remember it being on like my Betamax or I think it's Betamax. And I look at it and I remember going, what the heck is Matawan, or something. I didn't know it was Mate One. I didn't know anything about it, but I called it Matawan. And that's when my brother, I think my brother called it that or something because when I explained it to him, like we used to have it, he goes, "You mean Matawan?" And I was like, "No, Matewan is the name." So I think, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, Matewan was fantastic.
And me, I'm because of my chosen field, I tend to gravitate towards anything that is historical in nature. So it's another one. I tend to prefer ancient history, but this one was really really well done too. So yeah,
Definitely.
good
All right,
stuff.
all right. So number five. Oh man, we're down to the top five. Goodness, we can grab it. It's a movie we did for it was our first Criterion Watch movie, and it's another Kira Kurosawa film, and that is The Seven Samurai.
There you
So,
go.
and I hadn't seen it before we did it, and I remember that we watched it separately because it was so long, and I didn't want to be in the studio, I guess, at that time for like
I think
three
you
hours.
were saying you thought it was going to be boring.
I thought it was going to be boring. I thought I'd have to stop it every whatever, and I didn't. Interestingly enough, it kept my attention the whole time. And I didn't know anything about Akira Kurosawa, but I wanted the first movie on Criterion Watch to be something big, something that people have heard of and very popular. So I chose that, even though I hadn't seen it. So it was probably the worst movie to choose for something like you probably should have chosen at some point, instead of
Oh, I
me.
would have.
Yeah, but I chose it, and it is fantastic. This movie is. Everybody talks about this. This is one of the most popular Criterion movies, to talk about to date. It's one of the first ones. It's number. Okay, so they have the numbers on it, and this is number two. So this is the second Criterion film that they ever released, like on Laserdisc and whatever. And I'm surprised they haven't put it on 4K yet, or whatever, updated it to 4K. But I'm sure they're getting around to it. I'm sure they'll do it. They're like I said, they're slowly sort of doing that, like as much as they can every time, but they have so much that they still need to even put on Blu-ray that they haven't. That it's gonna take a while. But yeah, this is it's in Japanese with English subtitles. If you're not into foreign films, or some people aren't really into foreign films, this is not your average foreign film. I'm gonna say that. Like this is not this is almost feels sort of American, without being American, with being still foreign. But it's got jokes, people joke around, have a good time, and things like that that just feel more,
I
you know,
think you were surprised most of all by how much comedy is actually in
exactly. I when I the Mifune, I want to call him Mifune the buffoon because the whole time he's just being like so silly in this movie. Then you see
the
him in something like High and Low where he's just this straight kind of guy or whatever, like this kind of completely different character. But uh
Kikuchio.
yeah, you watch him in this, he is so funny in this. I absolutely adored him in this movie, and
It's a great film that is also one of the most beautifully shot films you'll ever see in your life. I like to describe it as saying it's like seeing a bunch of paintings in motion, except it's in black and white. And yet, that does not detract from the film. In fact, it's probably better because you get a certain level of tonality in black and white that you don't get with
mm,
color. And I only say that because as much as I love Ron, which is another movie that's similar, is in bright, gorgeous color, I still prefer Seven Samurai overall, and it's an amazing experience, and yeah, everybody needs to see it. I'll never forget it. It's another movie I saw as a teenager on the giant screen at the State Theater in Newark, and thank God I did because seeing it like that, just fell in love with that film.
so far, I only have two Akira Kurosawa films, in my collection, I think. So I have this and I have Hidden Fortress. and I haven't finished Hidden Fortress. And that wasn't because I was bored or anything. It was because I picked a time where I had like a million other things to do, and that movie needs to be like sat through like beginning to end, like
Hmm.
I did with Seven Samurai. And it just like I got busy.
It's
I
an
love
excellent film.
so I want to watch both, but Hidden Fortress, speaking of Star Wars, inspired Star Wars.
Mhm.
People tend to forget that. People tend to think that, George Lucas just made up that
No.
shit. And no, it's the same story. If you look at it, R2D2 is the two idiot guys that are in there and everything, and all that stuff. So yeah, it's very similar. But yeah, I love that movie, and I keep saying that, but I highly recommend all of these movies.
Oh yeah, sure.
So there, your next one, your number
So
five.
my number five is a movie that is one of those that I can throw on any day of the week, anytime, and it just gives me so much enjoyment, and I love it to bits. And that is Ghost World.
Ghost World. I love that movie.
Thor Birch and Scarlett Johansson. I can just watch those characters all day freaking long. I just love them. I love the world that they've been put in, even though it is somewhat different from the comic book series that it is based on. But there's just such a wonderful level of snark that is in this film that is great. Two absolutely fabulous performances there by Thora Birch and Steve Buscemi. And Scarlett Johansson shows how much talent she has at a young age. And it's really, really, really well directed. And it's a really funny, black, dark comedy. And it just hits on so many different notes. And yet you end up, even though she's such a brat, but you feel so bad for her at the end. And I don't know, I love that movie to death. It's one of my absolute favorite films of all time.
The director of Crumb, if I'm correct in
Yeah,
that.
Terry
Yeah,
Zwig.
Terry Zwigoff. Yeah, and I remember seeing that movie. I haven't seen Crumb, and Crumb is on the
Comes
Criterion
good.
show is
It's not quite
as
as good
well.
as this.
It's a documentary, if I believe, about Robert
Ish,
Crumb, the
yeah.
guy, yeah, the guy who did like a lot of weird comics and shit. I think that they also ended up. I don't know if it's the same guy who, or at least he shows up. No, it's like the guy. They did another movie called American Splendor, and I
Right,
think Robert Crumb pops in there or whatever.
right, 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 right.
He knew the guy or whatever at that time. So there's like, like to me, comics back then where they like the comic code, I guess, was gone or whatever, and they could do sort of whatever they wanted, and they could play around, and everything was such a wonderful time period.
And Crumb was in Crumb too, so he was actually showed up in that one. But yeah, it's funny. Zwigoff did Crumb, he did Ghost World, and then he did Bad Santa of all things, and I'm like, Bad Santa.
I mean, that was this is what happens. Hollywood sees that you do something good independently, and then they want you, and then they ask you to do something you probably wouldn't do, but you choose to do it because it's money. It's a
Hmm.
way to get yourself out there. Um, a lot of people probably saw Bad Santa and then ended up seeing, Ghost World because of it, and things like that. So I never get mad. I don't go, oh man, that guy sold out. I'm like, he bought in, like he went
Hmm.
out, he made a movie, I don't mind. So I don't hate on Bad Santa. I just don't think it's as funny. I love Billy Bob Thornton, so like
Yeah,
anything
no,
he does, I'll still.
junk. But he did do Art School Confidential with John Malkovich. I didn't see it yet. I'd like to. Um, but other than that, I don't know that he's done much else. Unfortunately, it's a shame.
Yeah, and he's still alive, right? He's still
Oh
kicking.
yeah, oh yeah.
So maybe he'll do something, one more big thing like that, or whatever. Who knows? Hopefully not Ghost World 2, because I want him to keep making original
I
things,
would love to see Ghost World 2. I want to know
I
what happens.
would. I know you do. And I think that now that I said that out loud, I'm like, oh man, because I know like so many people would actually want to watch that. So
Yeah,
maybe it would
I
be a good idea.
I think it's pretty perfect the way it is. I don't know that we need to tease that narrative out anymore.
Well, your number five was good, but my number four is it's a different movie altogether. So yours was a comedy on number five. Number four is a crime drama, called Mean Streets. This
Hmm.
is on 4K, and on Blu-ray as well. It's a Blu-ray combo with 4K. Fucking phenomenal movie. I'd seen this years ago and loved it, and then rewatched it with my buddy Vittorio when he comes over for like Sunday nights or whatever, and we watched it going, this is a really fucking good movie. This is
Oh
just
yeah.
really well done, well directed. This is probably one of the best that Martin Scorsese's ever did. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's one of the best.
And I think it's the movie that really brings out both De Niro and Harvey Keitel out of being just sort of, small actors. I think this is the movie that made them both. You
Um,
know.
in the TV show Entourage, Vincent Chase has to play a character or has to play a movie, and he calls it his Mean Streets, you know?
Mhm.
And it's not like, because it's an independent film that's gonna hopefully take him out of being just a small, kind of getting there to a rising star or whatever. And that's really what this did is um this put Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel on the map,
And Scorsese, frankly.
and Scorsese. And after then, I mean, the Robert De Niro worked with Scorsese more than he's worked with any other director, and some of the stuff he gets him to play is just so messed up. This role he was in this was just kind of funny, kind of goofy, not your typical Robert De Niro. He's not Travis Bickle. He's more, he's not Raging Bull. He's just this.
And I love those movies.
I know. And I have Raging Bull on
What a
4K as
great
well
film.
from Criterion. I think you no, you got me this because we get for Christmas because you asked me what movie I wanted for Christmas or whatever.
Mhm.
So I got this and I wanted that. That's what I wanted. I wanted Mean Streets because
Yeah, I like it. I have it. I don't know that I put it up there with Scorsese's best films. It has a little it has a few problems in that some of the characters I don't love, and it does lag a few places in my opinion. But it's still a good film, and I think anyone who's a fan of Scorsese needs to check it out.
Well, what I really, really loved is they had a lot of like 50s style music and stuff,
Hmm.
and I thought that was the cutest stuff, considering this movie is sort of grim and has this like, I mean, sometimes funny parts, but like mainly it's a sad story. And but they did that later with like Goodfellas, he
Hmm.
brought in that 50s style music into Goodfellas, but like that was because I think that was that time period or something, so it made more sense. This they just did it because I guess it worked well with his style and everything. So
It's interesting because the actress who plays Teresa is Amy Robinson, who she didn't really do a whole lot else acting wise, but she became a really famous producer, and she worked with Griffin Dunn with After Hours and
yeah, we did Chilly Scenes of Winter.
yes. So I
Yeah.
was going to
And
mention that.
yeah, so Chilly Scenes of Winter was like their first, collaboration, and we reviewed it. Yeah, and Paul hadn't seen it, and I had seen it once before, but I was blown away by it. It's not on my top 10, but it would probably be on my top 20 or 30,
Yeah, good
because
film.
it's a fantastic film, and it's it just made me, I don't know, I was really into it. So there you go. But you're number four. What's your number four?
Okay, so my number four is a movie that we actually did for Forgotten Horror Classics because for some reason it just isn't as well known as it should be. And it's the 1961 film The Innocents by Jack Clayton with Deborah Kerr. Just absolutely fantastic. Probably one of my absolute, apart from The Shining, it is probably my favorite ghost story kind of film of all
I
time.
I think we did it for Criterion Watch, not Forgotten Horror Classics, didn't
Well,
we?
we did. I know we did it for something.
Yeah, I think we did for Criterion Watch because I remember watching it with you guys, and
Hmm.
I hadn't done your Forgotten Horror Classics since that other one. So I remember watching it with you, me, and Joe, and us talking about it. It was the ghost story,
I,
where the with the kids,
I
right?
may have done it both because I showed it to Lenore, and Lenore was like scared to go to sleep after it. It kind of frightened her. So we may have done it for both shows.
Okay.
In fact, I think what happened was is I really wanted to show you that, and at the time is like, well, we've already done it. You said, it doesn't matter. So we ended up doing
Oh, okay. That
twice.
makes sense.
And yeah, I try to show as many people as possible because again, this is a movie that should have gotten a lot more respect and a lot more
Yeah.
eyes on it. It's fantastic, it's creepy, it's unsettling, it's disturbing, it is beautifully, beautifully shot. It's really well acted. There's just enough ambiguity going on where you're like, I don't really know what's going on, in a way that makes you very unsettled. It's just a fantastic, fantastic film, in my opinion. One of my absolute favorite films. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I
And
showed it to you.
I'm glad I saw it too. I don't know if I bought it yet, because what I like to do, most people should know, well, no, probably don't know this. I like to watch when I watch the movies that you recommend, I end up usually buying them that year or whatever, close to it, so I could have them, forever or whatever. Like I bought Matewan, I bought Ghost World, I bought Lady Snowblood, Local Hero, all those movies. So I've
Good
seen
movie.
all of them, and because of of us seeing them and recommendation, and because we've done them on Criterion Watch, and I felt like
Mhm.
having all of the ones that we've done on Criterion Watch and everything, even if I hadn't seen it, and everything.
Well,
So,
if you like Rebecca, you'd like this one because this actually goes in
and
the same
I saw
direction
it, so yeah, I loved it. I
as
also,
if it actually really was a ghost as opposed to
yeah,
and
yeah,
of course, it's got Pamela Franklin, one of my absolute favorite '70s actors. I had a huge crush on as a kid, and this was her in her original role in the '60s, and she actually sings the creepy song that the movie begins with. It's really just amazing. It just hits
yeah.
every level.
The other one I really liked that I did not put on my list, so you're not going to see it on here, is The Uninvited,
Yeah.
which is also sort of that. It was like the first of
Yep.
the
That's
uh,
on my that's in my top 20, and
top 20. Okay,
I've been
that's
saving that for Forgotten Horror Classes because it's another one that people just don't remember or forgot or never saw. It
I don't know
should.
why, yeah, but they should see it. So if you haven't seen those movies, go check them out for real. They're really good, especially around like Halloween time or
Oh
something,
yeah. Oh yeah.
spooky season. I think you'll get really into it. All right, damn, we're down to our last two, or
Three.
last three. All right. So my three movie is a movie we haven't done yet. I'm surprised, but we haven't. It's a classic. It is on 4K, so had to get it on 4K, and it's the Seventh Seal.
Definitely in my
Classic.
top 20.
Yeah. I just absolutely I saw this movie because I think Criterion Channel had it, and everything, and I was subscribed to it at one point. I was like, oh, well, because that's where I saw Local Hero for the first time. You had always recommended it, and then you did it for Criterion Watch without me because I was out in California at the time. So I was like, all right, well, it's on, Criterion Channel. Let me check it out, and I fell in love with it and everything. But this movie I hadn't I checked out too, and I was like, oh my God, this film is just wonderfully
Max von Sydow, just
uh,
what a performance. And I got to tell you, I was trying to decide between M or Seventh Seal for the 10th place, and ultimately M won by a hair. But yeah, so this would have been number 11 for me.
Ingmar Bergman, man. Just
Mm.
fantastic director. I want he has like a set on Criterion, like a whole bunch you can buy, but it's like $200 or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
Like it's like
yeah.
expensive, but it's got like a bunch of their stuff like Wild Strawberries, I think,
Great
uh
film.
the spring one, I think something's spring, rights of spring, something like that.
Hmm.
But anyway, it has a bunch of his movies that are very, you know,
Hour of the Wolf is really good too.
yeah. So like a lot of his films, and um,
Virgin Spring.
Virgin Spring, God. So yeah, so I highly recommend all of these movies wherever you see them, and I
Yeah,
recommend
this
this.
is
This is my
I
favorite.
I
Like,
love it. It's got that classic trope and scene where he's playing chess with death. That's what most people take away from the film, and it's just amazing scene.
yeah, it was wonderfully shot, wonderfully directed, wonderfully edited, wonderfully acted. I mean, just it's just wonderful.
Mhm.
I
Some of the
love
best allegories that you're ever going to see done in film. It's really,
yeah, and I mean, you really can't do some of these things now. People have the attention span of a gnat.
ugh,
Like even me, and it's a little slow because there's a reason to it, There's all this build up to what's going on and everything, and I feel like more people should just eh, take your Ritalin, sit down and watch this fucking movie because you're gonna really enjoy it, you
oh
know.
yeah.
So there you go. Um, your number three.
All right. So you've noticed a lot of my movies tend to be older films, but for number three, it's probably the most recent film, and it's one of the greatest films I think I've seen in the past 30 years, and it is Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. One of the most beautiful and saddest films I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't say enough good things about this film. It's beautiful, it's creepy, it's sad, it's
Oh,
depressing, it's uplifting, it's got everything. And some of the acting that was done, Ivana Bosquero, was just absolutely heart wrenching. It was just fantastic. And just the writing and the directing, the visuals were just freaking top notch. I don't think we haven't done this yet on the
no,
show.
we're
We're
actually talking
going
about
to.
doing it with Danny Terry at some point.
Yeah.
We just haven't.
Yeah.
So,
It is
uh,
absolutely amazing. And that's the first one. I have another one of his in my top 20 that if we decide to go and do more of these another show, we'll maybe I'll mention it then. But yeah, Guillermo del Toro is probably my favorite current member. I just think the world of him.
yeah. Sorry,
You've
you
seen
kind
it,
of.
right?
Yo, no, actually, I haven't. I
Oh,
saw the one we did.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I wanted to wait until we did it on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That
So
makes
I've been
sense.
just yeah, because it would feel better, because I won't know what's gonna happen, and you can see the look on my face when we do it and everything. So I've been waiting, but I haven't been like trying to like, hey, jab you or anything about it, because I'm like, we did one of the first ones we did in Criterion Watch was Chronos, and
Good movie.
great movie, and I hadn't seen that, but you wanted to show that, and then. Wait, it wasn't Kronos, was it? No, it was the other one, Devil's Backbone.
Oh, yeah, Devil's Backbone. That's
Devil's Backbone.
the other one in my top 20.
Yeah. So there you go. So I know you're a Del Toro fanatic.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to see Pan's Labyrinth. I heard great things about it. I'm excited, but it's gonna have to. Yeah, I just want to wait till we do it on the show. And
It's one of those films that makes you understand how you can do much more artistically with film than just a popcorn film because it works at that level, but so much more. And it's so many layers and so many levels. It's just amazing.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't pick any of the, like I made sure I didn't pick like Devil's Backbone or anything on that because on my list because I didn't know what you would do for Del Toro. Um every time I hear Del Toro, you're gonna hate this, but every time I hear Del Toro, I think of Del Taco and I want a taco after that. So
I always want a taco, so there
I
you
know.
go.
So there you go. That makes sense. So another one, my last two are also 4Ks as well. So I mean, I think the last four were 4Ks. Kind of worse, I guess, for 4Ks. But it is a movie we did for season 3 opener of Criterion watch. We did it with Joe Lynn, did it at my house, and we did Citizen Kane.
Great film.
Um,
In my top 20.
yeah, fantastic film. And most people be like, "What? That's not number one on your list?" Oh, you see what's number one on the list in my explanation for it, and I'm pretty sure you might be able to tell what it is. You'll know, but this is just fantastic. They went all out. I mean, they put every letter of Cain in this thing, and each one has a disc. I mean, just fantastic. They really went all out. It has four discs. I mean, it is. I think two are 4K and two are Blu-ray, if I'm correct, or maybe one is 4K and three is Blu-ray. But it is. It's just one of
I
the.
remember this is another one you were kind of avoiding for a while because you thought it might be boring.
No, no, no. I watched it once. My
Oh, you
dad
watched it. Okay.
bored by it. We were like, why are we interested in the paper company? What is going, right? This is right. And then the second time we watched it, I picked it because I bought the 4K and I was like, you know what? If I didn't like it or I found it boring, I can talk about that, right? And
Mm.
I mean, I'm gonna own it because it is like number one on like the AFI list of like top 100 movies or whatever of all time and everything like that. And I don't think it's been pushed out or anything. Nothing's beaten it or anything like that. But it's
And
just
now it's number two on your list.
it's number two on my list. Yes.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know the first one. It's going to be Actium Maximus.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's not even a Criterion film. Oh my God, that was
Yet.
a Criterion film. I would give up on Criterion. Like you don't know what you're doing anymore. You're done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but it's another one. Again, I'm a huge Orson Welles fan. He's another one of those guys who makes fantastic films, and it's another one that had a lot of technical success and changed the movie business. With the way he did his extreme depth of focus. The way he would actually take the camera and bury it in the floor in order to get some of the high angle shots. Just amazing cinematography and fantastic performance.
Considering this was like his first actual like film, or whatever. I don't think he had done any other film. He had done theater for a while, but this was his first film. And he got like somehow or another, he got Final Cut approval and all that stuff, which he was not able to get later for
I was
other
about to say
films.
that was the last time, I think.
Yeah, I think because like it bombed badly. It's one of those films that like it was ahead of its time, I guess. Like
Way ahead of its
people
time.
did not really see its, potential and see its, until it became more of a cult movie. But then everybody started saying this is the best movie of all time. And I mean, it's not my favorite film of all time. If Ed Wood was on Criterion, that would be my number one. But unfortunately, because that's my number one favorite movie of all time. But this movie's up there as like a great fucking movie. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's not and it's one of the best criteria. It looks fantastic. We watched it at my house on my
Looked
4K.
gorgeous. Absolutely
It was
gorgeous.
it was absolutely and I remember
Rosebud.
it was actually one of the better episodes of Criterion Watch where me and Joe really went into like everything about it and
Hmm.
picked it apart. And I thought that was a more that was like more of a was it lesson kind of thing than we normally do. So I thought it was
Hmm.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot of scholarship in that one.
what's your number two?
Well, the number two is one we've already talked about, so this will be short. It's Seven Samurai, which is just happens to be one of my absolute favorite films of all time.
Oh shit. Well, because I wasn't sure if you put more than one Kurosawa film on your thing, and I thought you probably would put if you're gonna put one Kurosawa film, you probably put Seven Samurai.
And I would have multiple Kubrick movies on there, except that my favorite ones aren't on Criterion yet. I'm not sure exactly why, other than Doctor Strangelove and a couple other ones. You know,
I think my only problem was like because I would have picked like High and Low because I do own that and everything, but I would have picked it. But my problem with High and Low is the captions. Once again, don't do on a black and
oh,
white movie,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
do white captions. Make it a different color or
Get
something.
red.
Is red something,
That
and
would
it
really stand out.
yeah, you could barely read it, and I'm like, and
He
because
had trouble with Seven Samurai too, as I recall. There were a few times.
well, no, because I was watching on my own. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. We were watching that on our own. So
Because
yeah.
I remember there's a scene where Toshio Mifune, he's playing Kikuchio and he's running after the horse. Remember, because the horse
Mhm.
bucked him. It was Yoei's horse, and he was making a big deal about how he was going to ride the horse. And he goes behind the bush, and then the next scene is the horse is running off without him, and he's holding his butt, and he's going after the horse, and he's yelling at the horse. And the subtitles white, and the water or the background that the horse was running on was also very very light, so you could barely see it. And I was like, oh my god, if it weren't for the fact that I had my glasses on, I don't know if I'd be able to see it, you know.
I know. No, even then you can't see it. You have to like literally go up to it, and everything. It's such a pain in the ass. So, Criterion, if you're doing a black and white film, do another color, please. I mean, that's
Or
what we ask.
even if you just outline the letters in red,
All
that
right.
would work, you
Something
know.
something different to make it stand out. Because
Mhm.
if you look at it and you're like, oh, you can't see anything because it matches
I mean, I
back.
get it. That means somebody has to go in there and digitally outline all the dialogue, but it'll
Yeah,
help.
we have the same problem with Dead Man. It did the same
Mhm.
thing, and it's every black and white movie generally. I just remember seeing other ones and actually being able to read everything. So I don't know, I don't know. And the problem with those movies, for the Kira Kurosawa films, is they're in Japanese.
Right?
Even if you can't read the subtitles, you have no idea what they're saying, and it throws off the movie a lot because I don't know what's going on. And then that's another reason why I used to hate foreign films because I
Right.
felt like I had to read.
And the other thing is, some people, what they've done is they've taken in some productions, they've taken the dialogue that you normally would have seen where it's transposed on the screen, and they've moved it below into the letterbox area. That works too, because then at least the letterbox area is usually black. So if you have white lettering, you can read that. It's just that,
That's a good
again,
way to
not
do it.
all films have done that because you have to go in there and digitally move everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth it in the end,
Yeah.
especially for Seven Samurai.
Something like Seven Samurai, where you need to know what everybody's saying. Especially since a lot of them talk fast, and if you just don't get it, you don't get it. So, or whatever. But yeah, I loved Seven Samurai. Obviously it's on my top. That was the only one, I guess, so far that's been on your. I'm pretty sure we're not gonna have the same last one too. So, but yeah, I loved it. I had a fun time with Seven Samurai, and once again, highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. You know. So that's funny that that gets a double, thing.
Yep, 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 yep.
I guess it's one of the ones that actually deserves a double, you
Oh,
know.
hell yeah.
So, my number one, dun dun dun, my number one, movie of all my Criterion collection. It is on 4K and it is beautiful and it is Princess Bride. I don't know if that's one of the
Feeling
you guessed or had a feeling that was
inconceivable.
inconceivable. It is a movie that was a part of my childhood. When it was announced that it was going to be on like Blu-ray, I got super excited. So I bought it like right after it got announced, probably at one of the sales. Then I let my brother borrow it, and then I never saw it again.
Oh,
Really upset. Then they announced it on 4K, and I was like, all right, I'll just buy the 4K. My brother can keep the Blu-ray, and I don't care. I have both now because it's 4K and Blu-ray. And this is just, I mean, I'm so glad they didn't change this. This looks like a book, it's got the hardcover, and I mean, and it actually is a digibook because it's got a book in there so you can read that stuff. And
William Goldman.
yep, William Goldman is one of my favorite writers of all time. I mean, you look at this, you look at Misery, look at Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which was like one of my dad's favorite films of all time. It's just it's fantastic and well worth checking out. If you haven't seen Princess Bride, I highly, highly, highly recommend this movie, and I think you guys would get a kick out of it. So, yeah, Inconceivable, As You Wish. I mean, there were a million quotes in that movie that you could say, and you could say it to somebody, and if they've seen Princess Bride, they know exactly where that came from.
Mhm.
And you can't say that about a lot of comedies these days. A lot of it just feels like everything else, everybody else is already regurgitated in some way or another. And so this movie having all of that is just fantastic. I mean,
And its thing is that, and what I liked about it is that it's not just a comedy. It's a comedy fantasy. It's a fantasy. And you don't have a whole lot of fantasies out there. Usually fantasy movies are sword and sorcery and adventure and that kind of thing. You almost never see a comedy set like that.
mhm.
And that's a shame. I mean, the only other thing I can think of is like Mel Brooks, and he did the Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is kind of,
Time Bandits.
yeah, Time Bandits, Python, and Terry Gilliam in general, Baron Munchausen. I think those
That's on 4K too from
those
Criterion.
tend to be, in my opinion, more fantasy and less comedy, although there's comedy in them. I think this one is mostly a comedy, but wrapped up in a fantasy world, which was really, really cool. And that's done on purpose because it's the grandfather telling the story to his grandson. So, of
Yeah.
course, it's going to be like a story or a fantasy or a fable or a nighttime story you tell to your kids.
Yeah, and it's a real book. My dad actually bought the book years ago. Did not like it. They preferred the movie better. I mean, it's different. It doesn't have that same comedy Rob Reiner feel to it, and I think that's a big thing. Is like Rob Reiner really put a stamp on, and I mean, this is old Rob Reiner. This is like one of his beginnings, right after like what's that one he did the one with the band the mockumentary kind of thing
Oh,
band
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um
With Christopher Guest.
yeah with Christopher Guest that one. Yeah, I can't even like think off the top of my head, but yeah, then yeah, it was just like that where it was
Yeah, of that group, because I put him in there with uh, what's it with what Penny Marshall and Ron Howard and that kind of group. I think this is the best of film of that group, in my opinion.
well, yeah, I mean, we did big for film freaks and stuff, and you're not a huge Penny Marshall fan as a director. I don't think you like her much as an actress either.
Not really.
All of them are former actors turned, director, and I think that makes sense for that time period. There, it's funny they just released or so a documentary on the Brat Pack. I mean, that's sort of like a director pack, of a child actors who
You could
sort
throw
of
Nora Ephron in there. She's kind of part of that group, and yeah, there was that '80s group of folks who did stuff in the '60s and '70s who turned to producing and directing and made a whole bunch of movies, a lot of which were very successful.
yeah.
Um, Not necessarily my favorites, but
Well,
like
they were
I
Holly.
sat through the Sleepless in Seattle. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was the greatest movie, but I thought it was okay. It was entertaining.
When
Um,
Harry Met Sally was pretty
and Harry
good.
Met Sally was decent.
So like things like that, like I enjoy it. Would I yeah, so I absolutely loved Princess Bride because once again it was a movie that we used to have on Betamax and I would watch over and over till the point where they would have tracking issues at certain places all the time. I did that with that in Terminator 2, like they would have tracking issues in certain spots. And I was like, oh, because the best parts too, some of the best parts, because I would watch it over and over again. I would love that part, like I wanted to see the part of Terminator 2 where he's, jumping over the thing. And then in my Betamax would go, dur, dur, dur. And I was like, ah, this sucks. So anyway, Princess Bride did the same thing and I absolutely love it. So it's one of my favorites. Your next one.
So my number one is a movie that I have loved, loved, loved all my life, and you know, I have a running battle between which is my number one, what's my favorite of all time film. Sometimes it's The Shining, sometimes it's this film, and again, it's one of those ones I can put on anytime, anywhere, and it just makes me feel wonderful. It's a movie that I always feel that if you want to get to know who I am as a person for real, you have to actually watch this film, and you're going to get me by getting it. And that's Local Hero.
I
And
I knew that would be your number one.
I
Is
was
your number one?
tickled pink when it came out in Blu-ray on Criterion, of course. And yeah, it is just magical and beautiful and funny and sweet and charming and sad and just all the emotions. I love when a movie can get all the emotions out of you at the same time, legitimately. And it's just one of my favorite things. Burt Lancaster was so fantastic in that film. Pete Riegert was fantastic in that film. Everybody who was in it was just wonderful, and it's a wonderful offbeat, little bit quirky, odd kind of a comedy that you don't see written, or you never see that kind of a thing today. And I just love it to death. It's my just about my favorite film.
It's sort of that like because I've seen it, I own it, and I tried to show it to my dad, but we couldn't get the subtitles to work, and my dad can't watch anything without subtitles, especially nothing that takes place in like was it Scotland or
Yeah,
what,
the Scottish accents.
the
Eddie
Scottish accent.
Seagrove, God, how could I forget? So beautiful.
Yeah, so he want if we can figure out how to get subtitles on that or whatever, we'll rewatch it. But it was beautifully filmed. What I really really enjoyed about it is like what you said is basically it's a slice of life. You get to follow this guy, I think Peter Riegert's character, and just the craziness that happens where he leaves his home to go to Ireland, not Ireland, Scotland, and he goes to Scotland
Gonna
and
buy a village.
to buy a village. Yeah. And he falls in love with the village and he basically doesn't want to leave. And I'm like, that is Paul right there.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
had the same experience when it was like a year or two after my mom died, and I wanted to go traveling, and I went to Ireland, out in the Western Ireland, where a lot of it is very similar to Scotland, and I fell in love, and I did not want to come home. I wanted to spend the rest of my life running around in the west of Ireland and never come back. So I completely understand what his character goes through.
I know. So I felt like that. I felt like if they sent you to Scotland or Ireland or whatever for a archaeology trip or whatever, you like, now
Not
you'd be
coming
like,
back.
I'm sorry, Jonathan. We'll have to do everything through Zoom now, and everything because I'm not coming back. I'm done. I have no reason to be in Virginia anymore, and I love it here.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I kind of feel like those happen, like there are shows or movies or whatever that have that. They may not have, this may have been one of the first ones that did it. I don't know. But like what I do love is those kind of style where the people are a fish out of water. They go to a place where they've never been before and they fall in love with it and they can't help. And so I really love this. The director of it did that other movie we
Bill
watched.
Forsythe, yeah, we did Comfort and Joy, another one of my
Enjoy.
favorite movies that needs to be
That
on
needs to be on,
Criterion.
yeah, it needs to be on Criterion. Needs a 4K too. It was fantastically filmed.
Mhm.
Wonderful. I loved that movie, and I think Bill Forsythe is a fantastic director. And
Yeah,
I,
the
I, I,
big
I get what you love.
the big three from Bill Forsythe is those two films, and then Gregory's Girl. So when we come back with Film Freaks, I'm going to show you Gregory's Girl, because that's the other one that's going to complete the threesome for you, because they're all three of them are fantastic films.
So I thought I was gonna be buying Gregory's Girl, and I thought, oh man, it's on Blu-ray at this like one company called Indicator. I was so excited. It was not Gregory's Girl. It was Georgie Girl or something like that. And I was like, what the fuck is
I was
that?
going to say, yeah, I don't think it's out in
No, it should be. All of them
should
should
be.
be.
Yeah.
So Criterion, if you are checking us out because you see us on YouTube as the top 10 Criterion films and all sorts of shit, definitely get these. Pick these up because like I mean, I don't know what the rights are for Bill Forsythe's films, like, because I don't know what this, you know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% either. He had to get, obviously he had to get financing for that. So I don't know whether what has ever been worked out with that. But I do have his first film, That Sinking Feeling, which is another good film. It's not quite at the same level as those. He also did a really good short film that I want to do for Short Films Saturday, called Adrena. That's really really good. And then the first couple of movies he did with the where he kind of came to Hollywood, because that's what happens, especially with a lot of foreign directors. They find that they have a lot of fans, and then Hollywood brings them in. And so he did Housekeeping, which was kind of on Breaking In.
That was those two are available on Blu-ray.
Right, 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 right. They're good films. They're just not quite the same level. And I know he didn't have much fun going through it. And then Being Human is the one I think that really broke him, because he just didn't really want to do it. But he ended up coming back and doing Gregory's Two Girls, which sort of like is a later follow up or sequel, um, which was kind of, yeah, wasn't really that great, unfortunately.
What
But
about his first film, that Seeking Feeling? Have you seen that?
oh yeah, I have it. It's decent. It's a good film. I like it.
Yeah, so you're a fan. That's like one of your favorite directors, I'm sure.
Right, 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 right. The only thing I haven't seen is he's done a short called Islands in the West. I've never seen it, and then I think he's like in a couple of other little things where he shows up. But yeah, so he's one of
Well,
my absolute favorite directors of all
it's
time.
interesting because Breaking In also was written by John Sayles. So
Yep.
it's like two of your favorite directors working together on a film, and I thought you would have liked it, but you just pretty much,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was good. It just wasn't great, and I expect greatness from both of those guys. I
Well,
do.
I mean, John Sayles, I love him to death, but he also wrote Alligator, which it's fun and it's cheesy and it's a lot of fun. Like it's not a bad movie, really. Like it's
Everybody's got to break in somewhere, man.
I know, but like, and what didn't he do like a Piranha movie or something? I don't know, something like that. So I know he did Alligator, I believe. Like, so
Alligator's actually kind of fun. I'm surprised we haven't covered that one yet.
that's not well. What would we do it on? Like Film Freaks? Because it's not. I don't
Probably.
think it's an indie film. I think that was actually a studio film, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So, but maybe it's an indie film. I have to look into it. But it is one of those movies. I mean, I might have done it for like 80s horror films, but I haven't I haven't been able to get back with Rebecca yet. So,
Mm.
and I want to do them by myself if Rebecca's not doing them, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm too busy with a million other things. So, well, that's it. That's our top 10, which kind of, other than our one that we collided and did the same one, but they're pretty vastly different. I mean, you would say like, I would say your top 10 are pretty damn good films. You probably say my top 10 were pretty good. I mean,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
think there
Oh
was
yeah.
anything
Can't go wrong.
wouldn't like. But it also shows our different tastes and stuff
Hmm.
and things like that. So there are certain
John Ward's favorite.
I know I thought I looked at it, I have it in my collection, and I didn't choose it because I don't know if it's a movie I would watch over and over. It's like I might watch it more than, another time, but I like The Graduate. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. But he, that's his favorite film of all time. However, he doesn't have 10, so I can ask him.
Right.
He doesn't even
Right.
have 10 that he owns.
Right.
He's very picky on that. It's funny considering you usually are very picky about your
Oh, I don't have nearly as many criterions as you do.
yeah, I think I've got 100 by now at least or close to it, so I
I've
need
got like half.
yeah. So you do have a lot though. That's like one of the bigger companies that distributing companies that you boutique labels that you own.
Hmm.
I have a couple DVDs, but I like Chasing Amy's on DVD, and so I have that. I've got like Royal Tenenbaums and Rushmore. Rushmore I like a lot better than Royal Tenenbaums, but I also own Bottle Rocket, which would have been on my top 10, but I just haven't watched it enough. So that is something we're eventually going to do on Criterion Watch at some point.
Right.
Because
Right.
I know you're not a huge Wes Anderson fan, you know.
And I have a bunch of DVDs as well, and I'm saving some of them for other shows. For example, Grey Gardens is a great film, but I want to save that for Docs That Rock, because
Right.
it's a doc and it rocks, and it just
But
happens to also be Criterion.
that's also a really good point because since we have multiple different shows and they all kind of have different genres or different things, for it,
Right.
you should put ones that docs that rock. You should put that in there, and then we can talk about that we have a show called Criterion Watch that we do.
Right.
So we love Criterion, things like that. So I love that. But this is the Blu-ray Hunter, so this is a bit different of the shows that we do. Thank you so much, Paul. Everybody else, if there's something that you saw here that you're like, oh, I didn't know that was available, or I've never heard of that one. I would definitely recommend Local Hero, his top number one. I knew that was going to be his number one because this is
Yeah,
movie of all
I've
time.
blabbed about that and all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's his favorite film of all time. So it just doesn't it wouldn't make sense to put something else above that movie.
Some days The Shining is my favorite, but yeah, they're very, very close.
But The Shining is not on Criterion,
No,
so
all's a pity. And I'll tell you, there is a third film that comes very, very close to both of them. Not quite, but very, very close. And it also needs to be on Criterion, but I don't think it ever is. Blade Runner,
yeah, Blade Runner is too Hollywood.
to Hollywood.
Yeah, I don't think they would touch it. Though in the beginning, Criterion, people keep forgetting that Criterion when they
They
first
did The
started,
Player.
they did the player, but they also did Armageddon and The Rock.
Oh God,
So they did
yeah.
Michael Bay when they first started. They haven't put it on 4K or anything, but probably because or like anything but DVD and Laserdisc because it got bigger, like it got its
I
own.
think if
Yeah.
that to me is them trying to reach out to get more mainstream people involved, in my
No,
opinion.
that was one of their first movies. So that was like when they were first starting out and they weren't, I don't think they had really figured out, who they were yet. It wasn't until they really got to pick the movies like Picnic and Hanging Rock,
Oh,
and things like
great
that.
film.
Great film. Yes, fantastic. But like things like that or Breaking the Waves, things like that where it's
Another
just
good film.
where great films where they go and take these films that most people may not have heard of and then they hear they're really great and then people go and watch them like me, like I had never heard of Nick and Hanging Rock until I found out it was on Criterion. Then I was like, what is this movie and stuff. So
Could have sworn I mentioned that to you a few times.
I know, like, but I'd heard of it, through like seeing stuff on Criterion and everything, and looking up the Criterion movies and everything. It's
Well,
funny. I don't have any Fellini that I picked on my top 10. I don't have any.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
who else?
I'm not a big Fellini fan, frankly.
Who's the other guy? Truffaut. You know,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Au
Jean
revoir les enfants. That's a fantastic film.
A Day for Night. Um,
Day for Night.
but then I don't have any Jean-Luc Godard. Like I didn't have Breathless on here, which I do have on 4K. I don't. I mean, it's okay. Like it's a
Oh
great
yeah,
movie.
there's.
It's
That's why I
very,
said we could do another show. We could do 11 to 20.
yeah. At some
Maybe
point,
we should.
maybe at some point we will. But I don't even know if that would still be on my 11 to 20. It's just and it's funny because yeah, I have so many movies, that I mean, I could do my top 100 of my movies or whatever it is that
In
I have.
Criterion, though.
No, I'm saying yeah, and that whatever I have in my Criterion, I could do my top,
Mhm.
but that's the ones I own, and everything like
Right.
that. So, but anyway, I highly recommend going out, buying Local Hero, buying Lone Star, buying Mate One if you haven't seen it yet, buying all the ones I suggest, Princess Bride.
Although I think you will buy movies that you haven't seen on reputation, whereas I don't know, I because I don't buy that many, I tend to just buy the ones that I either already have seen or you've shown me or someone else has shown me that I turned out that I really, really like.
Yeah,
For example, I know like you watched Big Chill, which not one that I ever would have recommended because I kind of think it's overrated. Um, but I
and
don't
I
think
did
you
not like
cared for
it.
that one.
Yeah, I didn't care for. I still have it in my collection. I'm not going to sell it. There are some Blu-ray collectors who will sell their, Blu-ray movies
Really?
off if they don't like it. We're gonna, by the way, so you've probably already seen it, yeah, but we're gonna be doing another video where we're talking about the collection stuff, and that is something that is a topic I want to talk about is that stuff. So tune in for that one. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's going to be on this, in this playlist of movies of stuff. So, check out everything. Also check out our channel, Indie Film Cafe, that we co-host and everything. And the stuff that, I mean, Paul's got some fun little shows like Forgotten Horror Classics, which is on our podcast. He does a Sexploitation Sleazecast show.
At some
Uh,
point.
at some point he'll come back to it. And then there's a Docs That Rock, Blue
Blue
Cheese,
cheese.
some fun little shows that we're gonna be bringing Blue Cheese back. It's just probably not gonna be till the summer. Shark Attack Sunday. We do a bunch of these shows together, and they are a lot of fun. So check out Indie Film Cafe.
Yeah,
Uh,
we hit a pretty wide. We throw out a pretty wide net when it comes to films. We try to hit just about everything.
And this channel is mainly just Blu-rays talk, or whatever, that kind of thing. And that's what I wanted to make sure. But then it's so funny because I'm like, well, that like stilts me from doing other stuff, right? Like I can't talk about this or talk about that. So I have to on other shows I have to create just to do, just to talk about other
I
things.
will say that if something ever happened and we had to get rid of most of our shows, I think the three that I would want to keep are Andy Film Cafe, Criterion Watch, and
Film
Film
freaks.
Freaks. Yeah, they're
Those are
my
the
three
first
favorite.
three that we started,
Yep,
and
they're
those
the
are
best.
our babies. Those are
Mhm.
our babies, and they maybe What the Fuck Friday too. Maybe that's
Yeah, I could do that one too. That would be fourth one. Yeah.
yeah. See, that's the funny thing is I'm thinking about these and I'm like, I don't know which ones I want to get rid of, but that's the thing. Eventually they're all, eventually I'm gonna hopefully be doing stuff and movie stuff. And so I'm not gonna be able to do all of these things. So the ones that get the most attention right now that we would put everything else on hold and but make sure that people at least got this stuff so they got some content would be Criteria Watch, Film Freaks, and well, Indie Film Cafe is never going anywhere. Like no matter what, I don't think. Uh, unless I'm not allowed to, unless my agents tell me I'm not allowed to badmouth indie films anymore and everything, then I'll be like, Paul, you might need to find another partner, which
Mm.
I'm sure you can, because there's, we got plenty of people. But I don't want to leave it. I just unless I'm forced to. Um, but but I'm sure they would have no problem with us talking about movies we loved.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
movies like Criterion Watch and all that stuff. So there you go. So check out indiefilmcafe.podbean.com and indiefilmcafe.reviews if you'd like to check out our podcast on that stuff. And I'll leave the links down below. So hope you guys enjoyed this and go hunt, go buy freaking Criterion Films because
You'll love it.
this is the month. I don't know how many I'm gonna get this month. I keep thinking, oh, I'm gonna get 10. I'm like, how much money that is? Like,
Yeah, no.
I
Two
can't.
is usually what I get.
Yeah, I may be up that alley, may get 2 or maybe 5 at the most, or whatever. But I don't know this time and everything. So
It
we'll
also kind of depends because, I fished the same local holes over and over and over, and they don't really change much of their stock.
you gotta come to Williamsburg because you saw a lot of stuff that you didn't see
Yeah,
other places. So come
I'll
down
do
to
that.
yeah, I got the house opened and you should come down. We should do a podcast or whatever there and then go hunting,
When is this the thing start? Is it on now?
Oh no, 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 it's not till July. Well,
July. Okay.
yeah. So not till July. I think it's like the first Friday in July or something. They like have like a specific day that they started off and everything. So but anyway, go check it out and tell us what you got. Tell us what you guys are going to plan to buy. If you're going to plan to
Mhm.
buy something that we don't know, or even tell us what your top 10 is. We would definitely love to
Recommend
hear
it.
it.
We'd
Yeah.
love to hear.
Yeah, I that's what I do. I go to other shows and channels and I listen to what other people buy. And then sometimes they buy things I've never even heard of. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. Just like you said, I listen to people's recommendations. I think somebody recommended The Big Chill, watched it, and I was like, oh, you know. But I thought it was going to be good. I love Lawrence Kasdan. I think he's the writer of Empire Strikes Back. Fantastic writer. I thought he would do, it just wasn't but somebody like John Ward loves it because it's his time period, it's his thing, like or whatever, like it's his kind of think he gets it, and everything. So I think it's very, that's something that somebody else would like. That I'm not going to get rid of it out of my collection because I one day I plan to buy every Criterion film someday.
Yeah, see,
I'm gonna get
I'm
rich.
not doing
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Definitely
And
not.
that's what we'll be talking about. So, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed this and tune in for other podcasts and other videos that we're going to be doing. So, until then, everybody, bye.
Nah.